Hello there once again. It's your old pal Locke the Bounty Hunter, and on today's very special episode, we are taking a look at one from It's Complicated. I absolutely love this guy. We're talking about the right to vote. This one should be a fun one. Link is in the description down below. Give this man your support. Fantastic content creator. He deserves a lot more recognition than he's getting right now, so let's get together and make that happen, gentlemen and gents. So let's not waste any more time and dive right in, shall we?
Do you know anything about politics?
Don't ask that question.
I do not.
I'm not
since
surprised.
About maybe 4 years ago, I kind of dropped it. It's just been going haywire. It's confusing.
Why are so many women concerned with their right to vote if they know nothing about politics?
Because they need something to complain about.
They shouldn't be concerned about it if they know nothing about politics.
Part of us wanting to be treated equal. So if a
You do not want equal treatment. You want preferential treatment. And yes, there is a difference.
man is able to vote, they're like, I want to vote too. It's not really something we really want to do. We just want to have access to doing it, really.
And yet, when you talk about the right to vote and not having it, it's like one of the chief arguments for feminism. We need feminism because women didn't have the right to vote until like 19 whatever. That's like one of your chief arguments.
Why don't more attractive women engage in conversations about philosophy and politics as opposed to fashion and pop culture?
Because they shouldn't. let's just be real here. They really shouldn't, because when they try to go into the realm of philosophical thought, it is typically cringe to like the 11th degree.
Because they were worried about their looks.
Why?
Because it's all they got in this world.
Everyone's wanting to get famous. Everybody wants attention. Everybody wants money. It's all about looks nowadays.
Man, I think that's most of Americans nowadays. I don't even think it's just females.
Why don't more attractive women engage in conversations about philosophy and politics as opposed to fashion and pop culture?
Vanity. We've turned to such a vain society.
Fashion and pop culture is more appealing to public eye. As soon as it comes to like getting down and dirty, when it comes to politics or anything like that, it becomes hard, and sometimes we can get emotional.
Have you ever...
Sometimes we can get emotional. Pretty much politics is nothing but emotional. There's no sometimes about it. It used to be that you could have two people to have a civil political discussion. You could have two people on opposite sides of the aisle be like, oh, you're voting for this guy? Well, I'm voting for this guy. Oh, well, I don't agree with you, but you want to get tacos anyways? Now it's, oh, you're voting for this guy? You are my mortal enemy and must be thrown into the depths of hell. It's nothing but emotion now. And when you have a society that's run primarily by emotion, it truly is a dangerous thing.
Personally been denied the right to vote or own land?
I have not, but I know that it's possible.
I'm a felon. I got arrested for two DUIs in Oklahoma, and I went to prison twice.
Would you give up your right to vote if it requires you to be drafted into war?
I'm not going to vote because I don't believe in our government.
What if I told you that voting rights originally required you to be drafted into war?
Brother, I served war. I'm a combat veteran. I'm a Marine.
Would you give up your right to vote if it required you to be drafted into war?
It's actually a really interesting question. I don't think a lot of people would be willing to do that. I don't think a lot of people would be willing to give up their right to vote unless they did mandatory military service. I don't see that happening.
Would I give up my right to vote if it required me to get drafted? Whatever the answer is to not get drafted. I don't want to get drafted.
I would fight.
I would fight.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't. You would not. You say that. You say that you would, but you totally, just look at the way you're dressed. There is no way that you would take a rifle and go out into the battlefield. There is no chance that you would.
As long as I could bring my vape.
Vape? A drink?
Oh no, I shouldn't say that. My mom.
My bad.
Would you give up your right to vote if it required you to be drafted into war?
100%.
Why?
Because you don't want to fight in wars. That's what this is all about. This question has been asked like multiple times when it comes to women in conscription. Modern women will always demand equal rights, equal representation, equal opportunity. But when the equality comes up to and including forced conscription in the time of war, then they turn around and go, oh, I didn't mean like that, which is awfully freaking convenient.
Shut up! This is totally different!
Honestly think when it comes to the women fighting to be equal, we fought so hard that we actually...
You didn't fight a single thing. You cannot take credit for the protest movements of the suffragettes and all of that. You have not lifted a finger. You cannot take credit for any of it.
Now we're being treated equally, and we're being treated equal as... I don't know. I feel like war is really for men.
How convenient. All of a sudden, now we're equal. Now we're good. War is for men. Go off and die. We're going to be over here talking about fashion and pop culture.
I feel like men should be put on that front line.
And I feel like you should shut up. But it looks like neither one of us is going to get what we want tonight, sweetheart.
Not women. We're supposed to be there taking care of the kids, homemaking.
But you don't do that either. You're too busy working.
Until women can be drafted into war, why should they be allowed to vote for politicians that can send men to war?
Because politicians are nothing if not hypocritical.
I can't answer that.
If they're going to vote, are they okay with being drafted into the military, right? A lot of women said no. But how can you have a say on, politics or views that you wouldn't even go to war and fight for, right? And yet they're going to expect men to do it. So I think that there are roles that men and women take place, and men have to decide they're going to step up to that.
What would you think if there was another draft and men all protested, holding up signs saying, "My body, my choice"?
They would be viewed as insurrectionists. Political views notwithstanding, let's just call it like it is. These men, if they did protest with "my body, my choice," they would be viewed with such venomous vitriol, and they would be accused of treason, and they would be accused of cowardice and all sorts of other vile crap. That's what would happen.
I wouldn't mind it because it's right. A man's body is a man's body, and they do have their own choice.
Except in times of war.
But at the same time, this is your house, and this is your land. If somebody was to come to my property and trespass and want to take over, you're gonna step up. You can't just sit there and scream, "My body, my choice."
Well, actually, it depends on the state with which you live, because in some cases you are forced to run away first. It is what it is. If we're talking about war, let's talk about the last draft we had, which was in Vietnam, which wasn't really so much as like it was in World War II, where we were directly attacked and we were retaliating. That was a total cluck that there's plenty of resources out there to research it. However, just because a draft is enacted for war, it doesn't mean that we're defending our land. It just means that we are being forced to go fight on someone else's land. This next war, who knows how it's going to be.
I would think that it would be well within their rights, because at the end of the day, why should we fight in a war that's caused by somebody else, some old man getting rich and wealthy off of our suffering?
Because it's the military-industrial complex, sir. That's how it works.
It ain't our war. It's yours. You did it.
Why are women able to vote on abortion, but men can't vote on being drafted?
Because of massive amounts of emotional hypocrisy brought forth by the feminist agenda.
Oh, that's a wild question. That is a wild question. That is crazy.
Men don't want to get drafted into war. Again, but I also believe it takes men to protect the household. It takes men to be warriors.
Yeah, but they don't want men to be warriors. They want men to be weak and subservient.
Men are supposed to be warriors. They're supposed to be the king of the house that has no throne.
They were supposed to be. They used to be. Not anymore. Pretty much the warrior mentality has been beaten out of the majority of men. Because what would we be fighting for? We'd be fighting for a group of people who don't appreciate us already. And if we go and fight for them, you think they're going to be appreciative after the fact? Hell no.
Men should have a choice on being drafted or not, just as much as women have a choice of having an abortion.
Why are we always talking about women not having the right to vote when men's issues aren't even on the ballot?
Because men don't count. That is how society works now. It's because the modern political machine feeds off of the emotional impulses of the modern woman. It's a lot easier to manipulate the emotions of a modern woman than it is to try to talk logically about men's issues.
Wouldn't that equate to men not having the right to vote, which applies to right now?
Technically, yeah, it would.
How are men even being represented?
They're not. Men are represented by being told to sit down and shut up.
Honestly, men are not really being represented. It's women are the ones that are really being represented and supported by the community.
And how are you being represented and supported exactly? Let's actually think about this for a minute. A woman who is supported in the community is pretty much just being reinforced with the notion that she's a victim about something and she can't build herself up on her own without help from either the community, the government, or a corporation or something along those lines. So what good has it benefited you?
Men don't really have that much support. And it's sad, but it's true.
Well, that just goes to show how much they want to put it in your face and let you know that you're nothing more than a tool, a piece of property that they're going to use until you're old and dry it out or die for some other unfortunate event. They just want you women.
See, again, this is where it goes back to passivity, right? When you have men that are passive and they're allowing just any issue to be brought up or whatever, we should be shutting down issues that don't matter.
When was the last time there was any policy made to help men?
To be honest, I honestly don't think there was one.
Are men struggling more from systemic problems or individual problems?
I would say both. I mean, we have the demonization of men in almost every single facet of life right now, be it on television, movies, in the news, politics. It's always men. It is always men who are the root cause of all the problems on the face of the earth. And we're also dealing with our own individual problems at the same time, and we're told to just deal with it ourselves. We get zero support in trying to build ourselves up when we're dealing with issues.
Individual.
Why are we telling men to go to the gym, get rich, and find individual solutions, as opposed to society doing more to help men on the systemic level?
Yeah.
Because then the women wouldn't benefit. And if the women aren't benefiting from anything, then what's the freaking point? It's not about equality. It's about preferential treatment.
I do feel it is unfair. Men's emotions are taken for granted a lot.
They're not taken for granted. They are completely disregarded.
You wouldn't have individual problems if it wasn't for the systemic problems. The systemic problems have impacted men's mental health and their social standings in their own families and households. So therefore, of course, they weigh heavy on them and cause individual problems, which they are not getting help for.
It's not about society not helping men, but men act real macho, real strong, like everything is good, but
No, it's not macho, it's stoicism. And stoicism is necessary for a society to thrive.
they were to go out there and protest like they need help or they feel like their body, their choice, they would be able to have that voice behind.
No, they would be laughed at. They would be laughed at and be called misogynist. All right, let me put it to you this way. Let's say we had 1 million men march on Washington, D.C. demanding their body, their choice when it comes to the draft. First off, I would be shocked if it got any more than 24 hours worth of news coverage. And then even at the point where it's getting coverage on the news, the major news organizations would twist their issues to make it a women's rights issue. They'll say, yeah, well, these men are complaining about being drafted, but women still don't have the right to get an abortion. And I think that's more important. They would twist it to make it a women's issue. Men's issues are completely disregarded in society.
If men didn't have the right to vote, how likely would women fight to give men that right?
They wouldn't. Like, not at all. Because it doesn't benefit them. Modern women will not fight for men if it doesn't benefit them, and even when it does, they are still not going to put up much of an effort.
Honestly, it's still a 50-50 shot. There's some women out there that do believe men have the right, but there are women out there that are just overpowered with themselves.
More like full of themselves.
How likely would women fight to give men that right?
Not as much as the men have supported the women.
How can we label society as a patriarchy where men oppress women when men don't give a crap about their own issues?
It's not that we don't give a crap about our own issues. It's that if we have issues, we are expected to deal with it ourselves.
It's a good question. I never really thought about it in that way.
Men are pretty simple creatures. Give them toys, help them relieve their desires, if you know what I mean. And yeah, put good food and drink in their belly, and then that's all it really takes for them. But women, they're more complicated creatures. You got to care about their emotions, their feelings, where they want to go, what they want to do. It's a lot more to it.
I guess it's because most of the time, most of the things that men do, most of the decisions men make, you know what I mean, they have women in mind for some reason. Like when a man gets money, when a man gets fly, it's to impress a woman. When a man's on some tough shit, 9 times out of 10, it's to protect and impress a woman. So like, you know, there's normally a woman behind the decision that a man makes.
As men, if we really desire that woman, we should suck it up and go for it.
Not anymore. Just because we desire a woman doesn't mean we should actually go for her. What if she is just a complete and utter female dog? Just because she looks good, I ain't willing to do that. I mean, hell, even if she shows semblances of kindness, with the way things have been going nowadays, even going after a woman who seems nice seems like too big of a risk. It's a gigantic minefield, and a lot of men are finding themselves asking if it's even worth traversing. And by the day, more and more men are saying it's not worth it.
And that's pretty much how all the people in office are probably feeling at the same time. But yeah, I think women need to start putting a little extra effort into their end of the deal, though.
If women always had the right to vote, how would our society be different today?
Oh God, it would be a disaster. You have to take a look at how masculinity was respected in the 18th and 19th centuries. Men were actually respected by then. They were encouraged to be men back then. And I think that if women did have the right to vote back then under the circumstances, I honestly do not think the country, I hate to say it, but I honestly don't think the country would be in as good of a shape as it was in the 18th and 19th centuries. I honestly don't. I hate saying it, but it's the truth.
No. We'd be less respected, just like how a woman's running for president. The other countries see that if a woman gets elected for president, they're going to look at us as weak.
There are several countries in Europe and South America with female leaders. Okay? That is nothing new.
It'd be different, for sure. It'd be more feminine. It'd be basically how it is today, just polluted, brainwashed.
So what you're saying is that if women had the right to vote back in the 18th century, nothing would have changed and everything would have stayed the same. Got it.
It would be the same as it is today because our society is totally, it's all communism anymore. We're not a free country no more.
Why do women think that the men in power won't cater to women when they already have?
Cater to this how?
Oh, come on!
Oh, gee whiz. Let's see. We've got no fault divorce with the alimony and the child support, the full backing of the government, social media, corporate America, private enterprise, the public education system. Oh, yeah. There's also the pregnancy termination thing that modern women love to go on and on and on about. There's also the fact that you are given preferential treatment when it comes to hiring. You are given preferential treatment when it comes to promotions. You get a boatload of support, but just because someone didn't show up on your front doorstep with a novelty-sized check for $1 million, you still think you're freaking oppressed.
There's all sorts of laws that cater to women. The Violence Against Women Act, Title IX, custody, child support.
She's looking at that going, none of those count.
Things like that.
I just feel like that's not stuff that cater to women. That's stuff that women need because men don't stay. That's why people aren't.
Men don't stay because you choose crappy men, woman.
Aren't building families out here just having babies and shit because they don't know no better.
I mean, aren't there things that men need?
Of course.
So why isn't our society?
That's because men is not talking about it.
You! I will think of you as I throw up into the toilet.
It's not that men aren't talking about it, it's that you won't let men talk about it. Anytime men try to bring up these issues, it's either patriarchy or seen as weakness. Men have been talking about this stuff. It's just that society doesn't want to listen.
Men don't talk about the shit that females talk about.
Is it the fact that men aren't speaking about this, or is it the fact that men aren't heard when they do speak up about it?
They're not speaking about it enough.
Oh, no, we're speaking about it plenty. You just don't want to listen.
And it could be because they aren't heard as well.
Oh, hold up. You just said that we're not speaking enough, but we're not being heard. So which one is it, lady? For the love of the intergalactic space god Flip-Laflard, all hail.
Are women more likely to make snap judgments or be indecisive?
It depends on whether or not the dude is Chad.
Yes.
Why is it that no woman in history ever knows where we should go eat?
Because she doesn't want to make that decision.
Because we are so undecisive.
When women are hungry, our brain does not know what we want to do.
Why do women want to vote and make political decisions if they can't even decide where they should go eat?
Checkmate. Checkmate. Checkmate.
Dang. That's true. You're right.
We want you to tell us where you want to go. Be the man, put your fucking dick down and say, this is where we are going.
And then you turn around and say, that's not where I want to go. You're treating me like the patriarchy. I'm now going to go vote for the commies. I wish I was kidding, but I have a feeling that's how it works.
If women can't decide where they want to go eat and they want a man to decide for them, how is that mindset different than women not wanting the right to vote because they wanted men to decide for them?
Again, I would agree. I think that, again, they've used that to try to empower one group, right? But there's no logic behind this empowerment.
That's because the feminist movement is based on emotion, not on logic.
Because we're already held at a different standard anyways. It's nothing against the actual men, but if our government wants to act like we're not as important as men, then you should do the fucking work.
Shut up. You don't exist.
You are the ones who are heralded as the paragons of existence. Like, women can do no wrong in today's society. It's like I always say, if you only have 99% of the public support, then you are 100% marginalized.
I can't, if I want an abortion, I can't get one somewhere.
Oh, God. Are you freaking kidding me?
Open my fucking door for me.
Why?
You can open your own door, woman.
Why do women think the government's treatment of women should somehow correlate to how women should treat men in dating?
Oh, I've been waiting for that one. Okay. My honest opinion is women are getting a little too crazy at this point when it comes to dating.
A little too crazy. Yeah, I've got dudes who have suffered false accusations who might take umbrage with that assessment.
Women are becoming very, very dirty, very dog, catcalling to men. It's a little scary in my opinion.
Since there are so many disenfranchised men, why aren't conservatives and liberals both competing for the male vote? Don't they already use issues like abortion to win over the female vote?
It's because they don't want men participating in society. They want men demoralized, disenfranchised, and just weak. So they're not going to empower men, because empowering men would inspire them to build up their strength. And if they build up their strength, they become dangerous. It's just easier for the machine to encourage the boots being placed on the necks of men everywhere.
Do use abortion. That's like that's the only thing I see for women. So
So why do you think they're not competing for the male vote?
They don't really care.
They're only trying to win over female votes.
It's easier to win over a female's vote. It's easier to win over the female vote, especially since we live in a society that's based purely on emotion. It's a lot easier to cater to the emotions of a woman than it is to the logic of a man.
Why?
Because female apparently have more power over men at this generation, which is crazy.
I think, just as you said, they're using issues like abortion and women's bodies' rights to attract the emotions of women to get us to vote on things that have nothing to do with that.
Again, they're just preying on falsehood, right? That's like saying that there's inequality in pay. That's also false. They've already proven that. Men hold jobs that women.
We are not living in a logical society anymore. You could have facts, figures, and ironclad statistics. All they have to do is look at that and just go, nuh-uh, and that's it. They just go, nuh-uh, I don't feel like that's right. That is all it is now. Using logic to defeat any type of argument nowadays is almost a fruitless endeavor, but I do it anyway. It's pretty fun.
No, don't hold, and women hold jobs that men don't hold.
If women make up about 51% of the U.S. population, why are women considered minorities?
I have no idea. It sounds like a stupid thing, honestly.
I think minorities has to do with less of the population and more of who they feel like is being heard.
When a minority isn't a numerical minority, it's just a state of mind. I got it.
They're picking certain people because they already know that they can get that voice and they can use that as propaganda. That's all that really is. I mean, matter of fact, I just got done reading a book about how if you really want somebody to speak up for the voiceless, it can't be the person that's voiceless. It has to be somebody who has a voice that can speak up for that voiceless person, right?
Any man who actually does speak up on behalf of other men typically gets the hammer dropped on him by the state. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Andrew Tate, but look at what happened to him in Romania last year. Like, what happened to him was absolutely freaking deplorable. But that's what happens when you try to stick up for men.
So with men, they dismissed our problems a long time ago because they've been dealing with the women's rights since the early 1900s. So it's more newer than that because men kind of been in power for such a long time.
Why does our society cater to the minority at the expense of the majority? Isn't a democracy supposed to be majority rule?
I would hope maybe it's because people have heart and they want to fight for, the underdog. So
Dude, fighting for the underdog only happens in Rocky movies.
Maybe that's why. Maybe they like attention because a lot of people do root for the other people who help the underdog. So maybe that's why.
They're preying on that part of society, hoping that they can get them to side with their views and help them get their agendas across. So they make them feel empowered.
Why do women think that if we have a female president, everything will suddenly become amazing?
Because modern women do not know how to think. And that's gonna do it for today's video, gentlemen and gents. And as always, if you find that my particular brand of comedy is bringing you to the brink of laughter, then why don't you scroll on down and click that like and subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and leave a couple of comments so we can share this video and give the good old-fashioned middle finger to the YouTube algorithm. Special thank you again to the It's Complicated channel. I love this content. I hope you guys do as well. Link is in the description down below. Give him your support, please and thank you. And until next time, peace out, homies.